Hi, George. Would you like to tell us some stuff about your aquarium? There's a lot of things going on.
A couple of days ago, uh, I was kind of reading through some of the questions about the reef tank, and people wanted to know some more specifics, something about lighting, something about the choice of pumps and flow, and then we'll go outside and talk more in detail about the outdoor tank that we have as well as the filtration room. So I know that a couple of questions came up. So one was about the lighting. So for the lights up here, we chose radions, and with the radions, we've got about 15 of them, and it sounds like a lot of radions, but there's a pretty big footprint to capture. So we've got a 9-foot by 4-foot tank at about 30 inches deep, and it sounds like a whole lot of lights, but I wanted to decrease any dead spots in the reef and not have any shadows. And I've noticed that when you deal with LEDs, if you do them in this way, they kind of act a little bit similar to the T5s, where you get a better spread of light. So if you could do less lighting, but you wouldn't have the same kind of spread, and the corals would have some hot spots and that. With the flow, at the ends here, you could see 2 of the larger gyres, and these just have a lower profile, and they alternate with flow between the top portion and the bottom portion in this case, or left and right if you mount it horizontally. So these are nice for the flow at this end. At the other end, we have MP60s and MP40s. I believe we have 6 MP60s and 2 MP40s. So they do make some sound. They're still great for flow. And the reason we chose that is I didn't want a closed loop system where it would be much more of an energy hog and harder to maintain and service, and less holes through the tank this way. So I wanted to create an environment where this size tank had as few punctures through the glass as possible, just to keep the possibility of leaks away. So now that we kind of went over the lighting and the pumps a little bit, let me take you outside and show you the filtration room. Take you outside here. So we have an outdoor tank that we have plumbed into the large tank. So the indoor tank shares water with this system. Now it is kind of funny and that we have a ATI 6-bulb T5 as well as the Reef Brights here in an outdoor system. So what we were finding was that in our case the sun comes in at an angle, and we weren't getting as much direct light top down as we wanted, and we wanted to kind of boost the growth in here. So we did add this, and we have it coming on early morning just to kind of supplement the lighting, and it's been doing wonders. The T5 really does have a great light output, and the Reef Brights is a nice supplement to it. And then over here we have Tunzi power heads, as well as a wave box for flow. So these are some of my leftover parts from my last tank. And then we've got, you can see here, we have some of the equipment sitting outside. So you've got titanium heater, which is a great way to keep the tank warm. So it's an Aqualogic inline heater. We've got this massive UV sterilizer, which has been helping out. And we just plumbed this in here. Is a Tradewind 2-horsepower chiller. And this just went in just a couple weeks ago. I felt like, you know, especially with the outdoor system, it gets hot here in sunny California, so we needed something to kind of bring down the temperature. And lastly, we've got our RO water. So we have these 2 containers producing RO water. And then we'll show you the filtration room.
George, do you want to talk about what
Yeah.
this stuff down here is as well?
Yeah, so we have it plumbed outside. This is the CO2 chamber for the new calcium reactor. So also, since the last video, we did add a nice sized aquarium engineering calcium reactor, which I could also show you inside the filtration room. But just to save space in that small footprint of this fish room, we've got a fish room of 7 feet by 10 feet. We needed as much space saving ability as possible. So here we have our filtration room. We did some wire management since the last time. We finally had some time to kind of step back and do this together and look at that. Over here we have a large sump. The sump is about 4 feet. Oh, I'm sorry, about 3 feet by 5 feet. 3 by 5, and here you have a refugium underneath with some Chaeto. And we've got at the bottom miracle mud. So if you go down to the bottom, we have miracle mud, we have rubble rock. We've got the Chaeto, of course, with a Tunzi light that's on a timer that comes on. It's like an LED strip light, and it's been working well. Over here, this aquarium engineering calcium reactor. So it's about, I would say, 36 inches tall, and it has about, I think it's about a 10-inch diameter inside of the chamber. And we did that because of the demand on calcium and alkalinity was too high, even with the corals still being small and young. It's been taking up a lot of calcium. So we had up here a dosing method with calcium, alkalinity, magnesium, potassium. So we still dose magnesium and potassium, and now the alkalinity and calcium are just as needed if needed. Right now we're not really needing to dose anything. And over here we have a super reef octopus skimmer. It's been doing very well. It's right now getting like a wet skim going on. And then to the right here, we've got these 2 reactors. One is for carbon and one is for GFO. I've been finding that I don't need the GFO as much as I thought I would. So we've been having a hard time keeping enough phosphate in the tank. So we've been turning it off these last couple weeks. We also had some nitrate reactors. We took those offline recently, so there's some empty space in the sump because since the last video we've been noticing our nitrates dipping down. So again, even though we have lots of fish, it seems like we have a deficiency in nutrients. So we've been feeding a lot and trying to keep the phosphate and nitrate from going too low. If you notice in the sump, there's an extra reactor. That's just for the effluent of the calcium reactor to pass through one more chamber to kind of degas it a little bit more. And then over here we have filter socks. I usually put a polyester filter sock because I feel like it gets clogged a little less often. And then that's most of it when it comes to the main tank and the details behind that. Now we have a quarantine tank, which right now there's no coral to quarantine. We've already went through everything that we've got. So this system is Got 2 lights on top of it, 2 Ecotech radions, as well as a sump down below, its own sump. The tank is about a 30-gallon tank, and the sump I think is holding about 30 gallons of water as well. So it's about a 60 to 70 gallon system. It has its own dosing right there, its own auto top off for itself. So it's kind of its own ecosystem. And then we've got a fish quarantine up above. So with the fish quarantine, it has each, it's kind of like 2 tanks that are running in tandem right there, and about 8 chambers, and the baffles between the chambers can be taken out. Right now there's no fish that we're quarantining, so that'll probably happen in the next week or 2. On this side we've got somewhere to mix our salt, as well as when we're not using it for mixing, we're using it to kind of use it as an extra reserve of water that just mixes with the tank.
So here's the outside tank again. George, would you like to tell us a little bit about the corals we have here? You know, all the...
Yeah, I could tell you a little bit about the coral, and we can kind of go in more detail about the lights and the pumps. So with the coral here, I try to not have any duplicate coral in the tank. So what I do is if anything breaks off, or if I get somehow if I buy more than one of something, I try to grow the pieces out here. It's been doing really well. I chose the T5s because I had seen it had been doing really well for some other people. I wanted to give it a shot. I know I have LEDs in other places, but I thought it would be interesting to give this a shot. And so the mixture of sunlight and T5 is really fun. The growth is kind of crazy. This has only been set up this way for about a month with the T5s, and I can see so much action going on in such a short time. So you do get a really nice mixture. I think with the sunlight was coming in an indirect way, so you're getting some growth, but not ideal. And I think now they're just getting lit from every angle. The flow, we have it using a wave box and 2 Tunzi pumps, and they're kind of using this Tunzi controller that gives it sort of a wave action. The nice thing is that all the filtration and all the chilling and everything that happens for the main tank just gets shared with this tank, so it doesn't need that much maintenance. And I've just been enjoying having more coral. I don't know what I'm going to do with all this coral, and it seems that they're growing pretty fast, so maybe eventually I'll have to trade or sell or do something with this stuff. But for now it's just something fun. It's another pet project that's attached to the main tank that doesn't seem to take too much time. And for now we have it as a bare bottom tank. So the bare bottom tank just helps the flow and helps us suck out the detritus when it accumulates. And we have a lid. Since it's outdoors, we have a sort of like this Lexan or plexiglass lid going on, so we don't get evaporation, and we don't lose heat in the winter. In the summer, we might take off the lid and blow a fan across it if we need to. But for now, it's been really good, and we run the lights super early in the morning, from about 6 a.m. to noon, or even might even shut off a little earlier than noon. But that's just so that we can get some extra lighting, and then it gets indirect sunlight during the day. But by then we turn off the lights, that way it doesn't have 2 items heating this outdoor system. So overall the tank is 1,200 gallons, or just over 1,200 gallons, including this setup, the sump, the mixing tank which doubles as a extra vat, and the 675 gallon tank inside. So overall you get stability, but you also make it so that when you do water changes, you have to change a lot, or if you're adding any kind of chemical, needs a lot of addition. But at the end of the day, so far it's been good. We've had this tank set up overall since I would say late August, early September last year. So it hasn't even completed its 1 year maturity date yet, and it took a while to kind of figure out the kinks together, and to go, get over some hurdles. But I think now we're finally starting to find our rhythm, and I can see the coral and everything is starting to show that things are more stable and mature, and now the live rock, live sand is really established. So I think that somehow helps the tank have that kind of health and stability.
So, any plans for what's next? I see that, the corals are growing very big, and at some point you're gonna have no space. Are you?
Yeah. So in
planning?
the indoor tank we did place the coral with some room to grow, but we'll have to see what happens as they, might collide into each other. I got excited and bought a lot of frags, and we put them with room to grow into decent sized colonies. But if they get anything past a decent size, I might have to either remove some coral or trim them, and that's why we have this outdoor tank, so we can frag it and put out here for people to enjoy.
Cool.